Dan Trudeau here. I'm the VP and Executive Recruiter at PRA USA. For 30 years now, we've been recruiting in the field of electronics, embedded, and controls development positions. In that time, we've worked through both expanding and shrinking economies. Now, while all downturns have certain elements in common, there are also always key aspects that set them apart. This time's no different. So, using that previous experience working through downturns, our ongoing conversations with both employers and engineers, and the trends we follow in this space, we see the real potential for significant change to this employment market. With that being said, here are 4 trends coming out of this crisis for the electronics, embedded, and controls field. Keep your eye on these possibilities in the days ahead. The first trend is company restructuring. Now, this of course happens in any recession. We've all either experienced or we know stories of like major downsizing or companies shifting business as things get tight. The question is, what's different this time around? First, companies, with some notable exceptions, seem more aware now of the costs associated with losing top technical talent. Anyone who has tried to find, say, a firmware engineer or a power supply design engineer or any similar specialty can attest to 1, how hard it is to even find the candidates, and 2, how expensive it's getting to pull them in the door. So while some downsizing is inevitable, we think there's a good chance it'll be less severe this time. In fact, we know of several companies that during the last recession did major layoffs who now are looking at programs like, temporary pay cuts to avoid doing the same thing now. So they're getting rid of, say, contractors and consultants and things like that, but it's all with the goal of retaining their direct hire people. Now, the longer this goes on, the harder it will be to maintain that. Also, there are people whose jobs might be okay during the crisis, but then find that they're in jeopardy once it's passed. The reason for that is because right now we're in limbo, right? Once we come out of it, companies may find that business they'd counted on is either gone or radically changed. That leads to instability. Beyond downsizing, companies are also right now shifting their methodologies and their structures based on what's happening. This is because in a big crunch like this, you find out about inefficiencies in the ways you do things, and you discover new ways to get things done. This leads to changes in corporate culture. And what it means to you is what your position was a few weeks ago may not be the same as when we come out of this. Not everyone's going to be okay with that, so it could very well lead to more engineers looking for new jobs. The second trend is a return of critical operations from overseas. There's been a lot of talk over the last several decades about the risks inherent in outsourcing our work overseas, and the COVID crisis has brought a lot of this right back up again, especially in critical areas such as the production of food, pharmaceuticals, medical supplies, etc. Undoubtedly, some of this work is going to be coming back to the US. What that means for us in the embedded and control space is an uptick in new product sales, potentially even in new product development. And speaking of development, beyond production, there's a good chance that this could bring even more development back to the US. And don't get me wrong, overseas engineering teams are not going away, just based on, economics, talent supply, etc. But during the last recession, we had several key clients of ours pull work from overseas engineering groups back to US-based development offices. The work that they left overseas was more in like support, testing, and related areas like, say, PCB layout. How much this will or won't happen is up in the air, but I guarantee you discussions for it are happening right now. The third trend is remote workspaces. Now, you knew this one was coming because so many people are working from home offices right now, including me. The question is, how much of this change will be long term? Because of the quarantine, right now companies are figuring out what work can and cannot be effectively done from a home office, and that's changing perspectives. In fact, according to a study by Owl Labs, 51% of on-site workers say they'd like to do remote work in the future, and it'll be a factor in their career choices. So it's not a question of will this change things, but how much. Employers who say can't convert certain positions to 100% work from home may opt to let people do it for a day or two a week. Employers that want to continue to retain and recruit top talent need to be considering this in the days ahead. Oh, and on the same topic, you should subscribe to our channel and check out my partner Jim Petiprin's video about managing remote work. It's a great resource for managers and the workers themselves. The fourth trend is consolidation in emerging technologies. Let me take you back to the last recession. Right after it ended, we had a surge of both new and existing clients that were making big investments in electric and hybrid vehicle technologies. Existing companies were launching e-car groups, and new startups were springing up left and right based on a combination of VC and government funds. Flash forward a few years later. Most of those companies were going out of business. Those groups were selling off their assets because, in the euphoria of being part of the next big thing, they had completely overestimated the short-term size of that market. The sales were not there, and in the end, only a few companies wound up doing the real work. A very similar thing happened in telecom after the early 2000s recession. Now let's take a look at the current landscape. There are a lot of promising technologies out there, such as autonomous driving, 5G, IoT, edge computing, and again, electric vehicles. Now, these are all viable technologies with very solid futures, but just like last time, the level of investment is way bigger than what the short-term market's going to be. The financial crunch coming off of this crisis has the potential to shut down a lot of firms that are just not profitable enough to be viable in 2020. Now, if you take a look at it, even companies like Zoox, Uber, and the Apple Autonomous Driving Group are doing layoffs right now. Now, these could be short-term, or they could be a glimpse of more to come. We're not going to know until we're later in the year, so make sure you keep attention on this channel, as we're going to do everything we can to stay ahead of the curve. No matter what happens in these four areas, the good news for engineers with a background in electronics, embedded, and controls technologies is the talent shortage is still so sharp that even in a downturn, you're going to be able to line up new opportunities to move your career forward. We're seeing a lot of resiliency in areas such as power technologies, medical equipment, and, as mentioned before, robotics and automation related to the production of critical products. Now, given the very low engineering unemployment numbers coming into this year, combined with the ongoing issues in the immigration process, along with the too low number of degreed professionals coming into the field, we expect this talent shortage to last into the future, covering areas such as embedded software/firmware design, electronic hardware development, control algorithm design, and related specialty areas like functional safety and cybersecurity. Now, with 30 years of experience recruiting in this field, PRA USA is very well situated to help you take advantage of it. Let us know how we can help you, and definitely make sure to like, share, and subscribe to this channel. In the days, weeks, months ahead, we're going to be talking about a lot of key issues, such as how to do a job search during this crisis, to how to pull in the right people after it's over, and answering a lot of big questions of the day. We want to put our experience to work to help you.